New Japan Pro Wrestling is moving to Saturday nights on AXS TV beginning July 13th. To set that stage, AXS TV will present a special live broadcast of Night 1 of New Japan's highly anticipated G1 Climax Tournament from Dallas on July 6th at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. That's 3 p.m. Pacific Time. Calling the action will be the American voice of New Japan Pro Wrestling, a Ring of Honor and WWE alum, Kevin Kelly. Thank you, Kevin. Before we talk some New Japan and AXS TV, how are things going for FSU sports, and are you following the College World Series?
Oh, absolutely, man. I'm fully on board. When I was there, I graduated from FSU in 1990, and I covered the sports teams. I was on the Seminole Uprising show, and everybody in the athletic department was cool. But the coolest cat of them all was 11. Mike Martin, absolutely the coolest. And I was so excited when the team won 11 in a row, ironically enough, to start this year. And then they hit some rough times. But now they've kind of pulled it all together, and they're in the College World Series. And, you know, against Michigan was a little rough, but if they can get the bats going, they might be there in the end. It's been what a thrill ride.
Kevin, do you ever get to go back down to Tallahassee during football season or any time during the year?
I'll tell you what, not since the major renovation. It's been a long time. Not since the major renovations to the stadium have happened. But it's been, you know, when I was there, the stadium was the world's largest erector set. And now it's this beautiful showpiece of, you know, modern college football and modern college athletics. It's, you know, amazing to see how far the program has come in just my lifetime. And it was Ron Simmons, ironically enough, that got me to be a fan of Florida State. And when I was in middle school, I decided that that's where I wanted to go. And so when Ron and I got to work together in the WWE, that was always like our bond. You know, he would see me the first time of the day, or I would see him. Hello, fellow alumnus. Hello, fellow alum. How are you? You know, and that was always our bond with our FSU past. But he was a big reason why that program got on the national stage to begin with, and he and I became friends over it.
Ron Simmons, one of the greats, FSU defensive player, all-time great, Hall of Famer for FSU. He walks on hallowed ground when he's in Tallahassee. Kevin, were you ever in Tallahassee when Ron was there on a wrestling show or in town? Because D'Lo Brown tells the story that Ron doesn't have to pay for a meal. He's treated like royalty. Anytime D'Lo didn't really realize how big Ron Simmons was to Tallahassee until they had a show there or had to drive through the town.
It was always remarkable. I think we were there twice when I was there. And the two different times that we were there, went out with Ron once. And yeah, it was like that. It was royalty. I covered the game where his jersey was retired, and that was remarkable for me. That was actually the first time I spoke to him, you know, because I got some press time with him in the pool kind of after the game, and then just to see him, you know, in all of his glory, and so humble, you know what I mean? It was always like a big joke, you know, but yeah, man, he was the man. I was there when Deion Sanders was there, and I always describe Deion. He and I were honk and wave buddies. I would see him driving his convertible LeBaron in 1985 with the big primetime license plate on the front, and I would, you know, see him. Hey, Deion! And he would honk at me. Hey, man, what's up? We were honk and wave buddies. He didn't know me from Adam, but I used to tell everybody he was my best friend.
Hey, Kevin, did you ever want to, or did you ever call any FSU games? Did you ever want to become an FSU broadcaster?
I always had the idea of getting into wrestling, Jim. That was always like my number one plan. I called FSU baseball my senior year. There were a handful of games that we got to do on V89, the student station, and I think we did six or seven games. And there were 3 or 4 of us, so we kind of split and would do 3 innings as the analyst, 3 innings as the play-by-play guy. So we all got a turn. But yeah, right there at Weyerhaeuser Stadium and being able to call that. I didn't do basketball because Tom Block, who's still there, Tom Block and another guy, they called those games. But I just wanted to do baseball. I never really saw myself doing anything other than wrestling, which is probably good that it all worked out, but probably bad that I never really had a fallback plan.
Hey, that's okay. Plan A worked out well.
Yeah, almost 30 years now. I started in 1991, so here we are. And June 14th, 1991. That was the first day I did television in wrestling. So I always consider that my wrestling anniversary, and we just passed that. So.
Well, you grew up in South Florida. Did you grow up in Stuart, Jupiter area?
Yep. Stuart. I was a Stuart boy.
Did you go to South Fork High School? What high school did you go to out there?
No, I went to Martin County. South Fork opened my sophomore year, and that was the school out west. I lived closer to the beach side.
Kevin, did you play any sports, or did you get involved in anything as far as broadcasting or journalism when you were at Martin County High School?
No, I always say I was not an athlete, but I was an athletic supporter. I went to all the games and stuff, and was always like, because we had Don Wallen as our basketball coach, the legend, and one of the winningest coaches, at least then, in Florida high school basketball history. So he had built a perennial state contender. So really into that. I wrote for the school newspaper. I can't remember if we ever talked about ever wanting to broadcast any games, but that was sort of on the local AM station, and they had like actual pros that did it. So I don't think they would be too interested in a 16-year-old voice cracking teenager calling games on a major AM station.
Did your love for wrestling extend when you were young, and what made you decide, hey, I want to do something in that business?
When I moved to Florida like so many other people did in the mid-'70s, 1976. We moved down from New York. And we never had cable TV, so they came and set up a cable TV in our house. And it was on a Saturday morning. Saturday, finished the work, wired the house, and said, okay, you're all done. And I was like, all right. So turned the TV on, and we had an older TV, so it took a second to warm up. You'd hear the voice before the picture. That was the trick with our old TV. The first voice I heard was Gordon Soley. And the picture came on, and it was Championship Wrestling from Florida. And I had experienced just a little bit of television in New York, but it was on at midnight. I watched it, I think, once or twice when I was up sick, and it was, but as soon as I saw Gordon, as soon as I heard him, and Mike Graham was wrestling. I don't remember who he was wrestling on TV. That was the first match I saw. And I was hooked. And whenever we would play wrestling out in the backyard, I was always the announcer. That's all I ever wanted to do. I never wanted to wrestle. I just wanted to be like Gordon Soley.